We have a special guest today, professional football player, a lot of great stuff. I got to spend a little bit of time, obviously before we hit the record button, and man, very interesting. So we got Camren. Looking forward to kind of learning about you, getting to know you. Why don't you, Camren McDonald? So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about you. I know that the listeners are going to want to know.
Thank you, Coach Martin, for allowing me to be here. Camren McDonald from Long Beach, California. I grew up playing football, and it was like my first love. Ever since I started playing the game, I told my mom that I wanted to play in the National Football League. And my entire life was just based on getting to the NFL, doing whatever it took to, have a career in the NFL. And along the way, I learned a lot of things that I think could help a lot of people. Well, actually, I know it could help a lot of people because there's millions of kids in America who, even if it's not football, who want to play sports at the next level. So being able to play at a big-time high school, play at a big-time university, and have professional football experience, I just have to thank God for my journey and being here and able to hopefully help people, reach people, and get them to know how to enjoy the game outside of next level success.
Yeah, that's awesome. So fun fact, right? I don't think a lot of people know this. So back in the day, at least I remember, before we had like the Modern Day and the St. John Bosco, I always remember two football teams that dominated in California.
Right.
So in Southern California, we had Long Beach Poly, and then Northern we had De La Salle, right? You remember that?
Definitely.
So you're at an amazing program, right? Let's kind of go back there. We'll start there. So you played football there. Tell us a little about your journey there. Obviously, and your recruitment and how that process went for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Jackrabbit logo recruits for itself just because they have the most professional athletes of any high school in America all time. So that's NBA, track and field, and obviously football. So my dad worked at the the high school when I was a kid, and then we moved to Corona. And he always told us that he wanted us to go to Long Beach Poly, but we had a decision to make between going to Corona Centennial and going to Long Beach Poly. And I always tell people that something in the air at Long Beach Poly, the dust that floats through the campus, finds a way to put people at the next level.
Yeah.
So going there, being able to make the connections that I made and had the football playing experience that I did, it got me recruited at a high level. And I'm in love with the Jackrabbits now. I try to go to as many games as possible. I'm still really close with their athletic director. And, yeah, it was a great experience. It's funny that you mentioned the Modern Day and St. John Bosco because they're kind of like what Poly used to be. But Poly is still a dominant, logo. It was recognized everywhere across the country. Even when I was in Canada, people were talking to me about Long Beach Poly High School. The alumni base is strong. Deshaun Jackson just got a head coaching job, so the logo carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, it's a great program. So I didn't know that about Centennial. So another fun fact on Centennial High School, which is close to where we're at. So my old wrestling coach was a wrestling coach there forever,
right?
Randy Campbell. So I remember being there. And actually, a couple years ago when he retired, we were there for his retirement party. But it's super cool. So
yeah, I definitely have a lot of respect for Corona Centennial because the sustained success that they're able to just produce every year. I mean, it's a credit to Matt Logan and the program that he's built. But they're a public high school that's able to compete with the private schools that have a lot more resources, a considerable amount of resources, as opposed to what Corona Centennial has. So what they're able to do at the high school level and the results that they're able to produce on the field, the recruits that they're able to put in college, I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah,
Corona Centennial football.
Yeah, me as well. They're a great program, and they're not a private school, and
right.
they're doing it as a public school, which is pretty neat. So what age were you when you finally got to the point where you thought to yourself, "Man, I could play at the next level"?
My dream started when I was 5 years old. I vividly remember when I told my mom that I wanted to play in the National Football League. But the age that I was when I realized, okay, I might have the ability to actually make it to the NFL, I would probably say 11 or 12 years old, maybe a little bit older than that, because when I was playing youth football, I was never the best player on my team or even like in the top three until maybe my 8th grade year. So I would say around 13 or 14 years old is when I realized, okay, like I might have the size and the ability to actually make it to the next level and play in the National Football League.
Awesome. So when did you get your first offer?
I got my first offer my sophomore year of high school. We played Narbonne, and I had a big play in that game that was able to help us seal the victory. And then the next day, I got offered by UCLA. I think Jim Mora was the head coach at the time. He called me, offered me a scholarship, and after that, my recruiting, it just kind of took off. It was steady, though, throughout sophomore year, junior year, senior year. It was steady offers coming in. It wasn't just like one big influx of offers at once. I would have trends where I would get a lot of offers, and then there would be times where it would be a little bit slower, but I was still young, so having one offer is life-changing.
Yeah. So Narbonne, the Gauchos, right? So I spoke there. So I spoke at that high school to their baseball organization. I think their baseball team a few years ago ended up winning like the city championship there in Los Angeles. So
Right.
it was a super, super neat thing. So you got your first offer as a sophomore. When you decided to select your offer, right? Do you still remember that moment? Like, did you sit down collectively, like with your family, to make the decision? Kind of walk us through how that went.
Well, being at Long Beach Poly, there was a pipeline of Jackrabbits to go to USC. So initially, I really wanted to go to USC. So I would always go up to the campus, participate in the camps, and I think it might have been my sophomore or junior year. They extended me an offer early in the offseason. Then I went back to their junior day camp, and then after camp, I committed to USC. I was committed to USC for, I would probably say 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months. The majority of my senior year, I was committed there. And towards the end of the year, I think I just took a step back and realized like I want to broaden my horizon, and I don't want to just follow the beaten path and do the conventional thing that everybody else did. So I decommitted from USC, and then Florida State extended me an offer, and I committed to Florida State before I even took an official visit, just because the Seminole Head logo recruits for it. So I think it's a top 10 storied college football program of all time.
Yeah.
There are some national championships that they almost could have won. If there was a 12-team playoff back when Bobby Bowden was coaching, I think they would have had a lot more national championships. So I just wanted to be a Seminole. So I committed, went on my official visit, never looked back.
So when you went all the way across the country, right? You went to Florida State. When you were playing your first year, right? You're going through your practices. What was the biggest shell shock from playing at high school to all of a sudden you're playing at one of the prestigious colleges in the country, especially for football?
I think the biggest shell shock for me was having to work my way up through the depth chart again, which I didn't have a problem with, but I thought it was going to be significantly easier than what it actually was. Obviously, it's Florida State, so they're loaded with talent. They had top 10 recruiting classes for so long. So when I first got there, being a third string on the depth chart and just having to play special teams, I think that was a big culture shock, and then also being so far away from home. But I was blessed in that regard because me and my brother went to Florida State at the same time, so we were roommates. So that kind of helped with being away from home. But other than that, it was pretty much a seamless transition because I knew I wanted to play college football and at a big-time university where I was going to have to compete. So there wasn't really too much of a culture shock. I knew it was coming, but just the realization of, and I'm at the bottom of the depth chart.
Yeah.
It was tough, but everybody goes through that.
Yeah. So what was it like when you played your first game in that stadium?
It's actually funny that you say that because we lost that game, but it was 75,000 sold out Doak Campbell Stadium war chant. I never took an official visit to a game day experience. So my first Florida State game that I ever attended, I was on the sideline in helmet and shoulder pads to hear the war chant, run out of the tunnel, see Osceola and Renegade with the flaming spear. I just think that it's one of the best traditions in college football. It was unreal. My parents were at the game. It was an unreal experience. I wish we could have won the game, but we played Virginia Tech, and I'll never forget that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the thing about with when you're dealing with football. a lot of football stadiums are much larger than professional stadiums, right? And it's a whole different atmosphere. I'm not saying it's not a great atmosphere when you go watch a professional game, because it is, but when you have a football stadium that has 25, some 50,000 more seats,
Right.
it's louder. I think there's way more energy, and it's just different. It's a different experience.
Yeah, I think the tradition and pageantry of college football is what sets it apart from the NFL. Like, there's a lot of great NFL experiences, but the community feel that you get from a university, especially a university within a college town, is different. The whole entire city shuts down for game day.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody like the Miami Dolphins, they're going to get a lot of people at their games, but it's in the city of Miami, so the whole city's not shutting down. It's way too big of a city to everybody to just focus on the Dolphins. So playing college football is a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, is there anything that happened when you were playing for Florida State that really stands out, that you really remember, that you will never forget? Obviously, apart from playing in the first game and that experience every time you would show up to play on the field, but is there something during that whole, from the time you walked in to the time you left, that you're like, man, I will never forget this moment?
I think the primary thing that I'm most proud of at Florida State is where, when I got to the university where the program was, in relation to when I left, the stark contrast and how much better we were of a program. I think that's what sticks out to me the most, just the accumulation of all of the experience, all of the work, to see it pay off in my final year. I think that's the thing that sticks out to me the most.
That's good. So now we went from high school, we went to college, right? So now you're getting ready to graduate. So what happened next? What was the next step?
So I was trying to figure out where I was going to train for the draft. So I went to Bomberitos in South Florida, and that process was kind of stressful for me, just because it's hard to enjoy that process and not stress about it when you have a 7th round to undrafted free agent grade. But if I could go back and just talk to those players who are in that position now, I would just tell them to enjoy it. So I went to train for the draft in South Florida. I was in contact with a lot of teams, so I had confidence that I was going to make it to the NFL. It was just whether or not I was going to be able to stick. It was a stressful process, to say the least.
So did you end up getting picked up by any of the NFL teams?
Yeah, so I got picked up by the Packers right after the draft. It was probably 10 minutes after the final pick was in. They called me and said that they wanted to revamp their tight end room. And they did, too. They got some good players in that draft, but they drafted 2 tight ends. But I was so antsy to try to get in the NFL, so I just jumped at the first opportunity. And being able to put that Green Bay Packer G on, it was a crazy experience. Just being in Wisconsin, seeing what the Packers mean to the city of Green Bay, and just the whole state of Wisconsin and what they mean to the NFL. I don't think there's a organization in the NFL that's more historic than the Green Bay Packers. There are a lot of them, but being able to play for them was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But I was about 10 days into training camp, and the bottom tight end on the roster, an offensive lineman, got hurt, so they had to go sign a new offensive lineman, and the business side of the NFL got cut. I was at home for maybe like 2 weeks, and then the Rams brought me into their training camp, and I came really close to making their roster. I played in 3 preseason games for the Rams, and started on every special teams the last preseason game, but didn't get enough reps on offense. So I remember my exit meeting with Sean McVay and Les Snead, and they told me, don't stop training, that I have more than enough ability to play in the NFL. So I think that's one of the reasons why I continue to train, and that conversation just put a lot of confidence in me. There's no telling if I'll make it back or not, but crazier things have happened, and there's so many different leagues and avenues. So last year I played with the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the CFL. Didn't know very much about the CFL at the time, but I just had a great experience out there. I would go back in a heartbeat. I'm a free agent right now, but I would go back there in a heartbeat and the ability to play football for a living is something that a lot of people don't get to do, less than 1% of the world.
Yeah.
So that was, up to this point, my professional football experience so far. It's only year 3, so year 3, 3 different teams. Going into year 3, 3 different teams with limitless opportunity in front of me. So kind of keep a great mindset about it. Just keep training, stay in shape. Crazier things have happened, and somebody getting cut out of the league and making it back into the NFL if they continue to put the work in. There's actually a lot of players in the NFL who have that story right now, who are actively playing in our starters.
Yeah. I always think of, did you ever see the Kirk Warner movie?
Yeah.
Where he came, and, obviously the rest is history, right? But you see something like that, and that's the thing. Like, you see somebody that, like, he believed in himself, even when no one else did, and he just did not give up. No matter what, he didn't give up.
From bagging groceries to Hall of Famer.
Bagging groceries, it's just crazy. Now the guy's in the Hall of Fame, exactly. So it's pretty impressive. When you were telling me about, your experience with Green Bay, you're right. I was thinking while you were talking that Green Bay to me would be one pro team that would be similar to a college atmosphere. Because that's how it is there in Green Bay, exactly. Right? So
it's like the most college town in the NFL, yep. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The entire city shuts down. They go to, I think it's called Titletown. That's right down the street from the stadium, Lambeau Field. You can see it from everywhere in Green Bay. Just the weather, the Arctic tundra, the way that the fans get into it. I'm still a fan of the Packers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean, you've been out of college for 3 years,
right?
And obviously the goal is to get back into the show, and make it right. And obviously, I don't have a doubt that's going to happen, right? Just meeting you and learning a little bit about you, and I think you're a very humble guy, but you're one where you're gonna do the work and do what it takes.
Exactly.
And I'm one where I believe that God's the one that opens his doors, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a really neat thing about that. But man, that is awesome. So Camren, let me ask you, right? So we have a lot of athletes and a lot of parents that are just listening right now, right? What's some advice you can give them when they're like, man, I want to be like that. I want to be the guy that gets recruited first and foremost. I want to be able to go to a great college. And obviously, after that, I'd like to be able to play professionally. Like, what advice can you give them?
I would just say just control what you can control. Be proactive in the recruiting space, but don't attach the way that you feel about the game to whether or not you're getting recruited, because at the end of the day, it's all out of your control anyways. So you might as well just enjoy the game for what it is, because it is an amazing game. It'll provide you a lot of opportunities, but not everybody's going to the next level. Not everybody's going to play in high school from youth football. So just enjoy the time that you get with your teammates. Enjoy the time that you get at practice. Enjoy every moment, every game. Don't attach your emotions to whether or not you're having off-the-field success. Just focus on being the best player that you can be and having fun, especially in youth football. I think growing up, playing youth football in Southern California, it's super competitive. The parents get into it, and when I was growing up, I thought that was the right way to be. But after playing high school football and then playing college football and the professional football experience, I just really sat back and realized, youth football is the most insignificant aspect of the game as far as having success goes. You can't tell which players are going to go to the NFL if you watch a youth football game. More than likely, none of them. So I don't think that the parents should be on the sideline getting rattled up about whether or not their team won the game, how much playing time their son is getting, or just having anything pull away from the joy of the game for the kids, I think is most important for youth football. Obviously, high school and college football is different because that's when there are more implications for your future. But specifically with youth football and the youth football parents, I would just say just enjoy the process. Don't get too worked up or emotional about it. It's insignificant.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Take a deep breath.
Right.
Don't get too crazy and just enjoy the game.
Exactly.
Enjoy the game, especially when you're younger. Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of times it can kind of get out of control, right?
Right.
But yeah, enjoy it. Listen, if you're an athlete and you're playing at that, even at the high school level, not everyone gets to do that. So make sure that you enjoy it. And if you're one where you're fortunate enough to get recruited and play at the next level, well, now that percentage goes down to like this big, right? So you're going to want to enjoy the time that you're doing it, right? And then if you're blessed enough to make it into the pros, right, enjoy your time there, because the lifespan of a professional, especially a football player, it doesn't last very long. So enjoy the time that you have doing what you love to do.
I think that's the main thing. That's the main thing. Just focused on, like you said, enjoying what you love to do. And if you can train yourself to do that, when you transition to a job that you're passionate about, you'll be able to carry that same belief and thought process, just enjoying every day, because the lifespan of a professional football player is 2 years, and the likelihood of you getting there is slim to none. I know they've been hearing that their whole life, and somebody has to make it, so it's a good goal to have, but you don't have to attach your emotions to the results.
Yeah.
I had to learn that myself the hard way.
That's good stuff.
Thank you.
So, Camren, if there's anyone out there right now that's listening that would be like, man, I want to follow this guy. I want to follow your journey, because your journey's just getting started.
Right.
Like, how can they follow you?
Oh, obviously social media. My Instagram handle is camm.mcd. I do post when I'm on teams. I post about my experiences on YouTube. There's a lot of content from Florida State, from the Packers, the Rams, and most recently my experience in Canada. I don't do it to blow up on social media or make money on YouTube. I just document my journey so that when I have kids, and we talk about football, I don't want to say, oh yeah, I was a really good player. I did this, I did that, when I had the opportunity to document it while I was going through it. So I'm happy I did those things, and all of those videos are still on the internet. A lot of them are early on. They were kind of goofy and just showed me having fun at the university. But as time went on, they got more serious, and I'm just happy that they're still up there. I have all my film from different training camps and my college football game tape on my YouTube to be able to send to coaches, but just so that I can have forever. And I take pride in the fact that I, recorded, edited all the videos myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the things we'll do as well, too, for our viewers is, we'll put your information on our homepage at the National Signing Day podcast, so they could be able to go there and they'll be able to click on your link from there, and then definitely follow him and follow his journey. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it takes me. If I don't play another snap of football ever again, I'm extremely satisfied with my career. I just think that it's every person's obligation to try to fulfill their potential and maximize their ability. And I think that I have the ability to play in the National Football League. So until that door is shut, and I know it's shut, I'll continue training, continue to stay ready.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming and being part of the National Signing Day podcast. It was great having you on here. It's also great just getting to know you, man, as a person. So I'm looking forward to staying connected with you moving forward, watching your journey. You know what I mean? And we're definitely grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here. I've watched so many different podcasts on YouTube, listened to so many different people speak. I think that the podcast space and media right now is like where the world is going. So the opportunity to be on my first podcast, I'll never forget this one. Hopefully awesome. I'll be able to make it to some more.
For sure. And I'm sure it'll be your first of many. So
thank you.
So, hey, best of luck to you. We're going to definitely be praying for you moving forward 100%. And we're going to be rooting for you. And we're going to be championing you. So we're excited to see where it leads. So everyone, listen, make sure you watch this. Make sure you share this. I'm sure you have friends, you have family that want to hear the stuff that Camren just said. So make sure you share it with your friends and family. Go to the National Signing Day podcast to be able to connect with Camren. Follow him on social. Hey, and until next time, I'm Coach Martin. We are out.